Hello and welcome to experiment 5 of bubbling. And in the past first 4 experiments we have done, we have gained 100% accuracy. We are in this video going to do exactly the same thing we have been doing. Try to automate this network, and the first thing we're going to do is check what routing what configurations are on each of the routers. And starting with router 1, we can see that there's no routing protocol configured. Next, we check the interface configurations, and there's nothing configured either. Oh my, what have I done? Okay, so let me just relaunch. Let's see if this will work. Let's see if it will work. Okay, alright, so we got our R2 back here. Okay, so for R2 we are going to do show IP interface brief as well. And we can see that for that as well, we have only the necessary interfaces configured. There's no loopback interface configured, and there is no routing protocol configured either. So R1, R2, R3, show IP protocol, no routing protocol configured, and only the necessary interfaces are configured, no loopback interface configured. And for router 4 as well, the same is the case, no routing protocol configured, and we have just the necessary interface currently configured. So we'll just launch bubbling again and then execute it. So we'll click yes here, and yes again, and the prompt is being generated based on the input parameters that we have entered. After the prompt is generated, it will be sent over to ChatGPT for generation of the corresponding playbook, which will then be executed on the network. So in the past 4 experiments that we have done, we have achieved 100% accuracy and reliability. The playbook generated had met our intention on the network. No additional feature was created, neither was any additional function generated. So okay, so we now have the playbook for router 1. So we go into router 1's console and execute it. So the expectation is bubbling will log in to the router and then configure the loopback interfaces, after which it will then configure the routing protocols and then exit. So those have been done here. Now that's in progress, and bubbling has exited. Is currently generating the prompt for router 2 to be to be sent to ChatGPT for generation of the corresponding playbook. So while that is going on, we're just going to verify what has been configured on router 1. So we can see that the OSPF routing protocol has been configured, and we have these networks also advertised as we requested, or as we actually want. So we are also going to check the interface configuration for the loopback, and we can see that both loopback 0 and loopback 1 have been correctly configured, and their status is up and up. So with this, we can say that router 1's intent was met with a playbook that was generated by ChatGPT. So now we're waiting for ChatGPT to generate the second routers playbook, which has been done now. So we go into R2 and execute the playbook. So as usual, Bubbling, logs into router through SSH and then configures the two loopback interfaces. After which it configures OSPF and then configures AIGRP protocol. Now, because we have two protocols on router 2, it's going to do a redistribution of OSPF networks into AIGRP and redistribution of AIGRP networks into OSPF, and that has been done. We can see that adjacency has been established between router 1 and router 2 on OSPF, which is shown here, which is an indication that the networks that we want advertised was advertised exact way we want it. But we can confirm that with show IP protocol. Permit me to expand this so that we can see the outcome in a glance. So okay, so OSPF1 configured here, and we can see the two networks that we want advertised, well advertised, and here GRP AS10 configured here, and the networks also appropriately advertised. So the playbook for router 3 is out, and we are going to execute it now. So we expect Bubbling to log into router 3, after which it starts to configure the routing protocols and the loopback interfaces. And because it also has two routing protocols here, we expect the redistribution of OSPF networks into AIGRP and that of AIGRP into OSPF. So that's been done, and the prompt for router 4 is being generated at the moment while we try to verify what was configured on router 3. So we can see both networks have been configured. Here we have AIGRP AS10 with the corresponding networks advertised, and we have OSPF1 here with the networks also advertised as required. So with that, we go into R4 while we wait for, okay, so we can check the interfaces, show IP interface brief, and we can see the loopback interface is configured. So now the playbook for router 4 has been generated. We press on Y to execute that and then see the output on router 4 here. So first Bubbling logs in and then configures the interfaces, after which it configures the OSPF routing protocol, and we can see that adjacency has been established between R3 and R4, and the whole of this has taken about 369 minutes. So we will now just verify our configurations by checking the routing table for R4. The expectation is that all the networks on R1, this R2 and R3 would be visible on the routing table for R4. So we will just check that here. Okay, so let me reduce this so that we can check against the topology. All right, so now the first one is 172.168.1.0, which is this network between the controller and R1. Next we have 192.168.4.0, which is this network between R2 and R3. Then we have 192.168.6.0, which is 6.0 is the same network as itself. Now we have 192.168.2.0 over here, okay, 2.0, which is the network between R1 and R2. Then we now have all the loopback interfaces, starting with 192.168.10.1, 20.1, 30.1, 40.1, 50.1, 60.1, which are all connected to router 1, 10 and 20, 10 and 20 on router 1, 30 and 40 on router 2, and 50 and 60 on router 3. Similarly, when we go to router 1, we expect that all networks connected to R2, R3, and R4 will be discoverable on the routing table for R1. So this is the output, and we can see that the first network that we can see is 192.168.4.0, which is the network between R2 and R3, followed by 6.0, which is between R3 and R4. Next, we can see the loopback interfaces. Um, okay, the loopback interfaces here, starting from 30.1, 40.1, 50.1, 60.1, 70, and then 80, which correspond to loopback 30 and 40, IP address .30 and .40 on router 2, 50 and 60 on router 3, and then 70 and 80 on router 4. So experiment 5 has been is successful as well. It met the intent of the network, and and there were no additional features configured, apart from what we want configured. So our verdict on this again is 100% successful. Thank you so much for your time. See you on experiment number 6. See you later. Bye.